Hey guys, this is part two of the study session with Dan. If you like this sort of content, please like and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. If you're interested in coaching, I will have down below my contact information. I believe my email is connected to my YouTube account, and I'll link my Twitter. Just send me a DM. Other than that, enjoy. All right, Jack 10. This is a really good spot. Jack 10 suited under in the small blind versus a limp on the button. So you're going to see this a lot against fish. I can't believe people limp the button still. Open limp the button. I can't believe that. In 2023, people are open limping the button. And you get a call. You flop, pretty good flop actually. uh,
Well,
you have a straight flush draw. And you lead for half pot. So how come half pot? I'm just How do you decide on your sizings? That's kind of what I'm asking.
um, I typically size up a little bit more on dynamic board textures in comparison to like more static ones.
And
Um,
when you say dynamic, do you mean like, what do you mean by dynamic? Like just that there's more going on, more like draws and wet, as we would say,
so,
wet board?
so wet and also dynamic, as in there's a lot of low cards, and whatever the best hand is at the moment is likely to change by the river.
Okay. Okay. So if so, let's go back to the flop, huh?
So when you flop like low cards, right, like the best hand at that time is probably not going to be the best hand by the river.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I guess
yeah.
that's
I get what
what I
you're
mean
saying.
by yeah.
So my only problem with that is, so a lot of people will say I bet for protection. Like,
Mhm.
let's say you have pocket tens here. Um, a jack, king, queen, or ace, that's a lot of cards to come on the turn and the river. Uh, that's jack, 10, queen, king, ace. That's five cards times four times two, right? So that's a lot of cards. So a lot of people will bet for protection. The only problem is you don't have pocket tens, you have jack 10. You technically have jack high, you know? Um, and although Jack 10 of hearts specifically, your exact hand, is ahead of, let's say, Ace 9, or let's even say 5 9. I mean, 5 9's a ridiculous hand, but the reason I'm using 5 9 is because it doesn't have an over. Uh, even though your exact hand has more equity, you still like don't have a made hand. I mean, it could just run out deuce deuce deuce, black deuces and you lose, right? Um, so you actually don't. You don't have protection here. Uh, you're not really betting for protection. Um, my question is, what happens if he raises you here? What if he makes it 12 big blinds? What do you do?
Um,
Well,
I think,
go ahead. What?
I mean, I think I would call.
Yeah, I think calling's the best. I don't really think. I see this like you're not folding, so it's between call and raise, right? So why wouldn't you raise? I guess is what I'm asking.
Like raise again.
Re-raise, yeah, like
So like I bet,
three
and
bet.
then he raises me, and then I three bet him.
Yeah, why not three bet? Because there's an answer to this question. And do you have an answer? I mean, do you have a guess? Because I could just tell you.
No, I want to hear what you
So
want to say.
the answer would be that you don't have nut advantage. So the nuts is 8-10, right? 8-10 of hearts, I guess, but 8-10. Like, are you more likely to raise 8-10 from the small blind, like offsuit, like 8-10 offsuit? Like, are you gonna raise? Or is he gonna limp ace 10, 8-10 more? I think he's gonna limp 8-10 more than you're gonna raise it from the small blind. So because you don't have nut advantage, which would be 8-10, um, or I guess what's the other straight here? 8-5-8. You don't have either of those cards that much. I don't really think when you put in a three bet here, I don't really think he's gonna fold anything, like ever. If he raises and then you re-raise is what I'm saying. So because you don't have nut advantage, I guess what I'm trying to say is three betting flops is when you three bet flops is when you have nut advantage. So you don't have 5-8 or 10-8 that often here enough to like put in the three bet. Although Jack 10 like is a hand that you could get in. Like if you got Jack 10 in on this flop, I wouldn't care. You have like 50% equity against like his whole range at worst. At worst, you know. You have more than that actually against most of his hands. But he has 7-9 and 6-9 and 7-6 way more than you. Way more than you. I mean those hands are the types of hands that fish love limping the button, right? So I think like this is gonna, after this hand, I'm gonna bring up that other hand you sent me with Ace 10 because that's gonna go over the same concepts of like range advantage on the flop, and I can show you range advantage. Maybe I'll save it for our next session where we compare ranges actually by using solvers like GTO Wizard, and you could see the differences of the advantages in the exact hands that the solver will give you. Um, so, anyways, as played, you bet half pot. Again, and I'll just say this: the when you're betting half pot, there's what other hands would you bet half pot with? Like, are you betting? I guess that's my question. Are you betting like Ace eight of heart? Well, you don't have Ace eight of hearts. Are you betting Ace King with heart? Ace King of hearts here for three big blinds, or are you doing differently?
Be checking.
Sorry, you said you're checking.
I'd probably be checking.
So Ace King of Hearts like has
Oh,
base
King of Hearts. Oh, suited.
suited.
Yeah.
Ace King suited.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, I'll be betting.
Okay, so and you would bet three, right? Three big blinds here.
Yeah.
Okay, so your default bet is kind of on these boards is just half pot in if it's like single raised.
Yeah, roughly about
Okay,
40, 50%.
so I just want to tell you that the reason why the solver goes smaller, like the solver might go 1/3, is because you're giving up less EV when you have to fold. Amongst other reasons. There's kind of like other reasons, but that we could get into it later. But um, solvers, and I think that's what I'm gonna do for the next session is go over sizing more and like trying to like tell you about like the theory behind different sizings. But I'll tell you this, like with ace, what would you do with ace of hearts, king X, or king of hearts, ace X when you only have like one heart? Would you be checking that hand?
Checking since, like you said, the button just has so much of this, especially when he limps.
Okay, so I agree, and that's why I sort of maybe would like a smaller bet here. Because I don't really think you're denying too much. Like, I think you either bet super small or big. I don't think like you go in between here. Um, I don't.
Big.
Maybe check. Let me think about this a little bit more. Because if I have Jack 10 here, yeah, I might bet big and just say, hey, I got like I might bet big here and not be using this sizing. I wouldn't use half pot no matter what here. Me personally, just because I've played so much that I know like kind of what the solver likes in terms of sizing. Now you don't have to do what the solver does, but the reason why I like doing what the solver does in hands like this is because it's optimal. It's the best way to play. But I think what I would do after checking, because like Jack 10 of hearts is like the only hand that you don't care if you get raised because it's so good here. It's the only not made hand that you're betting. You know what I mean? I think like if you have like ace, like let's say you have pocket aces or pocket kings, you don't want to use this middleish size. You're either checking or betting big. You know what I mean?
What sizing would you go?
If
Like,
I have pocket
okay,
aces or pocket kings here, I would probably check because you can't get raised. I mean, if I have pocket aces, if I have two black aces and you get raised, even if you bet like two in the six, what do you even do? Like he could already have 8-10. He could have 6-7, 7-9. It's so hard to play aces here. This is why I would check a lot of this. Jack 10 again. Think Jack 10 is making your life easy here of hearts. So because you just don't care. You want to get it in. It's so good here. Um,
Mhm.
but just think about your range more. Like what would aces do? What would aces do without a heart? What would ace king do without a heart? What would ace king do with a heart? Stuff like
Sure.
that, and think about would they bet half? And my answer is kind of like no. I think they either want to bet big, and when you bet big here, you're kind of saying, hey, listen, I got a set, or uh, I want to get it in, or you say, or you check, and you want to like go to showdown kind of thing. And when you check, you have to be protected. Like this is a perfect check raising hand. You know what I mean? So if I were playing this hand, I might check raise instead of lead. You know what I mean? I just don't like this middle pot bet. Let's go to
Okay.
turn. Like what I want to do for next class is just like really talk about sizing because you don't see half pot on the flop very often anymore. It's kind of fallen out of favor amongst like
Yeah.
the solver and like higher stakes guys. And so how do I do this? He calls and you get a flush and you bet about half. We'll just call it half again. And he calls. I just let me just go back to the turn. So my question is like when you bet half, what if he raises you like are you feeling good about your hand if he makes it like 20 big blinds?
I'd probably get put in the blender, but probably not
You're
holding the
you're
hand.
calling, right? I mean, you have a jack high flush, right? But
Right.
how good do you really feel when someone limps the button and then now they're
Right.
raising you on this scary turn, you know? Like
Right.
like you have a flush. You have the third nuts, right? You have the
Hmm.
ace, king, queen, jack. You have the fourth nuts, right? Uh, discounting the straight flush. Let's just not count the straight flush. But it just doesn't, to me, it just doesn't feel that good, you know?
Right.
It just feels, if someone raises me here, like, they have ace, deuce of hearts. Like, they have
Yeah.
king, six of hearts. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm just like, that's why, like, this line. See, you're out of position, you know? I think this line of half, half, half kind of like, let's see what we do on the river. The river is a non-pairing card. Get some straights there though, which is actually kind of good. Um, and he folds a river. Like to me, if I'm playing in position, if I'm sitting here in the button and you know you're playing this, you're being this aggressive when this scary card comes because the five of hearts is really scary. I think I'm just gonna fold, man, and only raise the nuts, which is why I kind of like you want to be more aggressive with like the top, like the higher part of your range. And this half pot stuff, like you don't have the nuts. Like I would just like take a bigger sizing or take a smaller sizing, basically. Um, does that make any sense? Do you have any like questions about this hand?
Yeah.
What's that? Or you
Oh,
you understand, right?
I understand.
Okay.
Uh, so on the flop, it was six big blinds. You said that you would either opt for like a third or quarter size bet, or you do a big bet. Like, what
So
size is a big bet to you?
not an over better pot. My bet on my sizings on the flop is 1/3 or 2/3. Online, I'm a little bit more precise. I do like a 30% and 70%, but let's just call it 1/3 and 2/3 for now.
Okay,
Um,
so you do like a $4 bet.
I wouldn't bet
I mean, four big blinds.
four big blinds. Yeah, like if I'm betting this note, I'm betting it bigger. Uh, I'm betting, yeah, like four. I'm not betting three. I know, like, some people watching this that are more recreational are going to be like, oh, Nick, what's the difference between three and four? which the answer is technically one. But like, if let's say the pot was bigger, I mean, if this is like a normal raised pot, like maybe there's 9 big blinds in the middle, and you bet I don't know 7 instead of like 5, that compounds over the course of two more streets, and then you can get some overbets in the later streets if you want to like if you want to get it in. Uh, but I would check a lot here. Um, like I said, Jack 10 kind of bailed you out, and that's going to happen in poker. That's sort of you know that could be like the good part about poker, or the frustrating part is that your hand's so good sometimes that it plays itself. But you got to be more think about your range more. Like, what are you going to do with like I said, ace of clubs, king of hearts? You know, I would check that. So start thinking like holistically, like what does your whole range want to do?
On on boards that are not dynamic like that, I always use a third or quarter size bet on the flop.
Yeah, I just um that sort of partly makes you imbalanced. Uh,
Mhm.
like
So you like to do the small bets even on doesn't matter what board.
yeah, you want to be thinking instead of like so when you have a decision process and it's like okay, the first part of my decision is I see the board and now what is my bet size based on the board? Well, first it would be do I bet? Yes or no? And then it would be if yes, how big, right? Well, I don't think in that decision process board texture should dictate um, bet size. I think it should dictate yes or no. So, I mean, it does both. I'm kind of simplifying here, but if the board needs to favor a big bet strategy. So when you big bet, it's big bet or check usually, and when you split your range into small bet or big bet, it's a little bit different. Because when you're small betting on the flop, that's usually a range bet, meaning all your hands are going into that.
You range bet, so it doesn't matter what texture. Yeah, gotcha.
On the flop. Range bets
Yeah,
don't
that's just what I meant.
happen.
Yeah,
Yeah, range bets don't, and you know what I mean by range bet. You're betting every
yeah,
hand basically that you
yeah. Betting
have.
the whole range. Yep.
Yeah. So when you're betting small on the flop, it's a range bet. In every other part of the game tree, like like on turns and rivers, delayed c bets and stuff, you don't do range. Almost never. I mean, and that's something we could get into later. But basically,
Before,
what's that?
go ahead. My bad.
If I what I'm trying to say is if I see a board like the last hand that was so wet, my
Hmm.
thought process is okay, do I want to bet? And if it's yes, so it would be a hand like let's say 8-10, you have a straight. How big? Well, you have to bet big there because you need to deny a flush draw, right? And like a higher straight, right? If you don't, well, 8-10 is the actual not straight, but let's say you have 6-10 or whatever the 5-10, or 5-9, whatever the smaller straight was. You want to bet big because you need to deny. There's this thing we were talking about with denying equity. So when you're betting big, how do you balance the big bet? Are you going to be checking and betting big, or are you going to be betting big and betting small? And I think in that node, when the board is that wet, I think you want to think, what do my hands that want to bet small? Would they rather just check? And I think it's yes, because it's like you're not range betting the wet boards. You're just checking to see a new card or to balance out your big bet. Do you get what I'm saying? I'm sorry if that's a lot of info.
I don't know.
I could
You're
condense
good.
that. So let me just summarize. When the board is that wet and you don't want to bet, you got to ask yourself, and you want to bet, you got to ask yourself, am I range betting? If the answer is no, then I think any hands that you would bet small, you would rather check than bet small or bet half pot. Does that make any sense?
Yeah,
Okay. That's kind of a lot there. Bet sizing, like I would love to talk more about bet sizing um, in like future videos. Like me and you could really delve deep into it, and I think there's so much to learn there.
for
So
sure.
Just ask yourself, do I want to range bet this flop? If the answer is no, then what do you want to do with your bad hands? Your bad hands would want to check, right? Like ace king without a heart there, checks, right? Because it has showdown value, ace high kind of. It's like you're not, and then when you get raised, you just have to fold. It's got some equity. Ace turns on the turn, like that ace might be good. Um, so just ask yourself those sort of questions, and I could
For
like
sure.
next time write those questions down, and it would be like much easier for you to like go through. So the reason I brought this hand up is I think we talked about this on the phone.
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of like a blunder, but it also goes to that hand we were just talking about before, which was how you don't have range advantage on this flop, or you might or you don't. Okay, so let's do this. So you raise. Oh, and my question is, are you raising two big blinds always from late position, or like how do you do pre-flop sizing?
Uh, really gonna probably do two big blinds, and then maybe towards the bottom I'll do like 2.3.
Okay, I like that. Yeah, that's usually what I do too. I'm
Dude, this
opening.
this this hand is about to expose me. Just a little background. I had like a whole cup of whiskey, and this was my last hand. And there's some background behind this guy specifically. He was just playing really bad, and then I think he showed like two or three different bluffs that were just complete airballs. But that was the story
So,
behind
okay,
this
yeah, you
decision.
mentioned it before off camera that this guy's spewy, right? Like this guy's crazy, right? He's shown bluffs with basically nothing, and you kind of want to get him, right? And you might not be like 100% sober, which remember you got to be sober if you want to win at poker. But
Right, right.
but but we'll go over it. Listen, we gotta do the good hands and the bad hands. So you raise ace ten, you get two callers behind, which kind of sucks, especially this isn't suited. So like now like you have no backdoor flush draws. Um, and you check, which I would let me think about if you want to check here. I don't mind checking if you're gonna check call, but you could bet here also because when you raise first in, you have aces more. You have an ace more. First of all, you have pocket aces more, right? Because like, let me ask you this: do you think these guys have pocket aces when they call behind you?
No,
Yeah,
probably
correct.
not.
Correct. They almost never do. I mean, it's you want to be careful using terms like never in poker, but they almost
Well,
never have pocket aces. But what could they easily have? Pocket sixes or pocket fours, right?
right.
They might have some ace four suited. Maybe at
Mhm.
an infinitesimally small time they have ace six suited, but and almost never six four, right? But they have more pocket sixes and more pocket fours, I would say, right?
For sure.
Like you have them about the same amount, I would say. Uh, so what is that? I think what that does is that sort of gives you range advantage, right? You have aces, which is the nuts. You have nut advantage. You have sixes and fours about the same time amount as they do. So I would bet. I would actually bet like small. Like you're out of position against two players. I would bet small. You know. But as played, you check and you go for a check raise, and this guy folds. So when I first saw this, I was like, okay, I kind of like this. He's check raising. Like he's saying, hey, listen, I got aces here. I got ace king here more often than you do. Show me your balls. Like let's go, right? I was like on board for this, just so you know, Dan. Like I really was. So so when he re-raises you, what were you thinking?
I wa- I was thinking that it was a weird and small size, and so I just went ahead and called.
Okay, so it is kind of a weird sizing, right? Like
Right.
normally you would see like a at least 20 here.
At least with a mini click
Yeah,
or
like
close.
like 22, um, and then more often it would be like 30 or like 40 or something, right?
Yeah, I think if he did that, I probably would have folded.
Okay,
Maybe.
so you're thinking, oh, I kind of have a sizing. So it kind
I
of
think in that,
confused like your thought process, right? Or
yeah, yeah. I think in that moment, if I remember correctly, that this sizing kind of like threw me off. I thought it was really weird. I
yeah,
feel like if for some reason I just felt weak to me.
it does feel weak, not gonna lie. But you know,
Yeah,
people, you know, like the old saying in poker is weakness is strength and strength is weakness, kind of. Um, but here's where I want you to start. And I think this is gonna improve. This is where I think the main leak maybe in your game is instead of using this language in your head, like is he weak, is he strong, etc. And you could definitely use that a lot, but I want you to start rephrasing the sentence in your head. I think you want to start acting. This is what you want to ask yourself: who has range advantage more, and who has nut advantage more, me or them? Well, I think you have more sets, right? Or you have more aces, and we said you have the same amount of sixes and fours. Well, in reality, since we're not robots, people love limping fours and sixes. And hands like that, pocket fives, pocket eights, pocket sevens, uh, pocket nines, yeah, right. So when he raises me and I don't block any of that shit, I'm
right.
kind of thinking he actually has those hands more than me. Even though I just said that, like, I think you have range advantage. People fish, like actual people, not robots, because sometimes I forget I'm actually playing against people, even when I'm playing live. They have those hands so often here. Like, what is he bluffing with? Like, let me ask you that. Like, he's he's raising you. Is he gonna have a bluff here? Like, what are the bluffs? Like, let's think. Like,
Really just suited connectors. Or,
yeah, like the straight draws, right? Like five, three,
mhm.
five. 3-5 is my favorite hand because that's my birthday, by the way. But it's coming up soon. Um, he's gonna have 3-5, and he's gonna only have the suited hands. So not only does he have to call behind two people. Remember, you open the hijack. Oh, this is low jack. You know, it's not like you're opening the cutoff or something. You open the low jack, and you had a caller. If he has 3-5 here, or like 3-5-7, right? Of he's got to have, not only does he have to have that hand after two people call, he's got to have diamonds, hearts, or spades. He he's not going to be. I don't think Fish will raise 5-3-5 or 5-7 of clubs here, right? Like
For sure.
that's he's just going to call and be like, hey, I'm on a straight draw. If I hit my straight, isn't that? Wouldn't you agree? Like that's how
Yeah, for sure.
Fish kind of think, right? Like
Yeah, yeah,
now, if he's a maniac and he's got 5-7 of spades, he might be like, I just want to bluff this guy off this, and I have enough equity, you know. But like I said, he has to have 5-7 and 3-5 after you raise the low jack and you had a caller behind from the cutoff. Now he's trying to. That's his bluffs. Does he really have it that often? I mean, I know you said he's a maniac, right? But man, I just don't see many bluffs here, dude. Cause like we said, like 3-5 or 5-7. So you call, you check. So I would have folded. Is basically what I'm trying to say. I would have just folded.
yeah.
I would have bet. First of all, bet super small, or maybe RNG to like check call. Cause like let me ask you this: like, where's Ace 10 in your range after someone bets? It's sort of in the middle, right? It's not. It's not at the bottom. Bottom would be like, what's like the worst hand you're opening here that totally whiffs? Like King Jack, of clubs. King Jack of clubs is like just garbage here, right?
Right.
Um, maybe 9-10 of clubs, right? That's like the worst hand possible that you have here. maybe 8, 9 of clubs. Those hands suck. Those are at the bottom. At the top are like your sets, ace kings and shit like that. The middle would be like ace 10, you know? So
Right.
like what's the middle of your range trying to do here? It's trying to bluff catch basically, you know?
Yeah.
Um so that's why I would just like check call. And then I would fold to the 3 bet. Um but as played, let's just keep going. Uh he bets 33. In
Huge.
it's big bet. 3/4 bet, and if you're gonna call this, you're gonna have,
Again.
huh?
So I was just thinking that if I called that, then I would just have
Yeah, like you're all in
that
any.
pot. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you might as well put it in now, right? Like that's
Yeah.
that's like the way like everyone thinks. Like that's how it should be. Because then the price on the river is like too good anyways. You're not folding the river.
Right.
Um, and he shows up with like what I thought he had, which is like pocket fours or pocket sixes, right? Um,
Yeah.
yeah, like like I said, like just start rephrasing like your thought process, like against a thinking player, like a pro, like if you're playing against me, like let's just say, would you be 3 betting there, or would you be getting it in there? You know,
No. No.
I
No.
don't
No.
think so, right? You're gonna be bluff
Uh,
catching, and I mean I would be playing totally differently to this guy, but like just think about, so if if you gotta treat him like a bot, you gotta think like, yeah, he's spewy, but like is he that spewy where he's gonna have 5-3 here? Like if you want to bluff catch out of position, just call a few streets. Just call like his small bet on the flop, small bet, medium bet on the turn, medium bet on the flop. If you want to bluff catch, I don't think you
mhm,
should bluff catch this particular hand. We could get into that later, but like like maybe you're bluff catching, maybe you're bluff catching with ace king here, but ace
mhm,
10 with the 10 of spades. I don't know, man. I think if I want to nitpick, like just have ace 10 and the 10 be like a club, but like so you could have all the backdoors, but yeah, just start thinking in terms of advantages. Like is he really bluffing here? And you count him on your fingers. Like he's got 3-5. He's got three. Here's my hand. Three combos of that. Three combos of 7-5. That's 6 combos. Well, how many combos of value does he have? Well, he's got ace four. He's got three combos of ace four, three combos of sixes, three combos of fours, three combos of ace six. It just outweighs it, especially with the pot odds. He's betting like half pot. Like I would just fold, man. You know what I mean? So basically, like the takeaway from this is just start thinking instead of like, oh, is he really strong or is he really weak? Start thinking like, who has which combos more often, and then really
sure.
think about the bluffs, where his bluffs are coming from. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Would you play this hand differently if it was ace 9-10 with like two diamonds or something? Or not 10, you have ace 10. If it was like ace 6-7, would you play it
I
differently?
think this was just um, a bad hand in general.
Well, the
I don't
reason,
think
what's that?
I don't, I don't think I probably would play a hand like this again.
It's okay, but the reason why I asked you about like about that kind of flop, because it's more connected, like ace 6-7 or ace 6, ace 7-8 or something, is that I actually think you could bluff catch more often there. He's gonna have more viable hands that are gonna be bluffing. Like there's so many hands around the sixes and the sevens, those straight
Yeah,
type of hands, that he's actually gonna have. Also, if
more
there's
connected
more,
hand.
if it was two tone, if it was two diamonds or two hearts instead of just mono, like
Right.
uh,
With the flush drawn
yeah,
and the more connectedness with the six and the
then
seven.
I would maybe bluff catch, but you're still you still don't want to like give someone 100 big blinds on a bluff catch. Like if I'm bluff catching against this guy, maybe I bluff catch two streets or something like that, Um, but yeah, that's basically it for this hand. I think you had a
Um,
question about a certain spot.
oh, yeah, just about that last hand. So typically, uh, when I'm multi-way and in this position, even when I'm first raiser, like checking it. Do you know how to do that?
Y- Uh, I don't do anything like at 100%, you know.
Well, I mean, like more often than not, like yeah. Usually when I'm multi-way because I want to, sometimes you're like three ways, four ways, five ways, and even when I have like a really strong
Yeah.
hand,
Oh, I
usually
think
check it.
that's yeah, I like checking a lot. I don't think you checking here was a mistake. I think for me, I would either bet small or check. Um, the reason why I probably leaned towards betting small here more was because it's 6 and 4. Those pocket sixes and pocket fours is the only thing they have that's gonna raise me. You know, they don't have ace king. They don't even have ace jack. Well, they maybe have ace jack, but they don't have ace queen or ace king often. So, but I do like your thought process where you check a lot out of position, multi-way.
Yeah,
I think you could play this check call just as easy as you could play it as a bet call. Um, and your check call would actually save more money against the specific hands that that villain had. So to answer your questions,
and
yeah, I think checking is totally fine.
okay,
If you want to play check out of position at 100%, yeah, you're gonna have to look up some solver stuff to see how to play, because then you're gonna be check raising more aggressively. And we could get into that next time.